Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Radical Candor Podcast. I'm Kim Scott.
I'm Jason Rosoff.
And I'm Amy Sandler, and today we are focusing on wellness at work, specifically where we all start our practice of radical candor, which is ourselves. And we have got such a special guest for you all today, Allie Love. Hello,
Yay,
Allie.
Yay.
Hi. Oh my gosh. How are you? Kim, Amy, Jason, what's up?
Well, we were just talking about I was going to say what a career, but even just your morning, I think you had a Peloton class. You were on the Today Show.
Yes.
Beyond just today, you've been a New York Knicks dancer, host of the Brooklyn Nets for the last 10 seasons. Oh my gosh, host of the Netflix show Dance 100 and founder of the lifestyle brand Love Squad. And Jason, how do you know Allie?
Well, I'm a Peloton rider.
Oh,
and
yay!
I've taken many of Allie's classes, especially love the feel good rides. And I was super, super stoked when you started doing the K-pop rides. I'm a huge K-pop fan also.
Good. I love that. Yes, we didn't have it a part of our music genre at Peloton. And when I joined, I was like, so can we talk about this? Can we get this going? And of course, in true Peloton fashion, they're like, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We love that. And in addition to Peloton, you've also been on the Today Show where you're now a contributor, sharing fitness and wellness tips. And in fact, you listeners may have seen Allie recently on Today, where you shared, Allie, your own experience of how radical candor, written by our very own Kim Scott, can help you boss up and increase your confidence at work. And it was a short trip from us being so excited, Brandy, Neil reaching out on social media, and then we heard back from you. And so we are so excited to have this conversation and learn more.
You know, I have to tell you, Allie, this morning I was talking to my editor who said that he starts many mornings with you and that he loves you. And if you want to write a book, he wants to edit it. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I know a lot of my colleagues right now, there are many books out there. I still have to read a few that just launched, but I know a lot of my colleagues have written a book, but I do appreciate that. I'll keep that in the forefront of my mind.
Awesome.
But Kim, I will say you're big shoes to fill, because when I do think of and this is different than an autobiography or a life's journey or something that has to do in the fitness space where my fellow instructors are thriving, like their content, their books are amazing. In your space, that's where I see myself in terms of hashtag goals. That's what I'd like to write is something what you've written about, but also, those are big shoes to fill. Like, I mean, come on. What?
Well, look, I wrote many books that did not get published before I wrote this one. So, in fact, I almost didn't even try to publish. I thought, well, I'm writing radical candor for myself, and I'm not even going to try. So, luckily, I tried. So,
I'm glad you tried.
Keep writing. Because I think you really inspire. I mean, I think the hard thing about what we're talking about is behavior change, and you help people change their behavior. And that is magic.
Thank you. I try my best. I don't want to.
You're succeeding.
I try. I'm trying.
And the kind of magic that you inspire people, Kim, you have talked about staying centered as your happiness recipe. And I think one of the things is helpful for each of us to know what it is we do to stay centered. I know I need to move and I need to meditate. I need to laugh. And I probably most of all need to not take myself so seriously. Kim, you need your 8 hours of sleep, your hour of exercise. You need dinner with someone you love. And how would you describe your happiness recipe, Allie?
Ooh, you know what's funny is while you were reading Kim's, I was like, are we twins? Are we the same person?
Yeah. See, those shoes are already pretty close.
I know, because what you said is like dinner with someone I love. That is true. I love sitting around, but I love sitting around food and having great conversation with people that understand me and that truly make me feel safe. And that to me is such a priority in terms of like my routine, in terms of like, I always say like your perfect day for me is being around, especially at the end of the day, is being around folks that I can just like, I can take that exhale and let it all go. And Amy, I love that you were saying, you know, that everything's not that serious. Like you just need to relax a little bit. I tend to align with you on that, and that I suffer from like this, whatever, being wanting to be perfect, perfectionism. It's like, I want to do well by you. I want to be prepared. I want everything to be perfect. And that's not how life is. And so I have to talk myself kind of through that. And especially in the mornings before I gear up, for example, in a morning like today, it's like, I have those self-talks with myself. And so on a quote unquote perfect day, or on a day that makes me feel good, it's like, I need to connect with myself. And I ask myself this two-part question is, how or what do I want to feel today? Allowing the answer to that to anchor the entire day puts me in a position, and I've been talking about this a lot recently, but it puts me in a position to be proactive instead of reactive, right?
Yep.
You open up Instagram or you open up your emails, right, from work. And most times there are things there. There are things that you are now feeding yourself, which is natural. It's normal. But instead of it, I'm allowing the things that I'm like taking in, or the things that I'm feeding my mind and my body to dictate how I feel by being reactionary to what they have put out or what they've said in an email. They didn't say thank you. Now I'm upset. It's just like, instead of that being the case, I'm already proactive in that no matter whatever comes up on my Instagram or whatever email is sent to me, I'm centering myself around the word or the feeling of what I'm carrying with me to my, that day, what I'm anchoring me on that day. And so I do that in the morning. It's like making sure I establish my anchor in the morning. And that has been very helpful. And I do enjoy working out.
That is so brilliant.
I love that. And Allie, the word that was coming up for me was nourish, right? Because you have your evening at the end of the day where you kind of let go and exhale, and you're surrounded by love and fun and laughter, and you're feeling nourished and replenished. And then in the morning, you're actually you're choosing what to consume and nourish yourself with as you go out in the day. And especially for you as someone, you give so much. And so it feels like it seems really important for you to actually have that time for yourself to fill your cup before it goes out in the world.
Absolutely.
May I ask you a question, Allie? Where exactly, I want to double click on this because I think it's brilliant what you do. Do you do this in front of the mirror? Do you do this when you're still in bed? Like where do you make this decision? Because it's a really important decision. How you're going to react to all the nonsense that is coming your way.
Yeah.
in a given day.
I love that you asked me this because I never share where I do this, because it's like the place that everyone goes when you wake up in the morning. You sit on the toilet. It's not that shiny, and I'm very open and transparent. And so I do it two places. One, most times I do it in the car, like after I've gotten up in the morning and I've hydrated and I've prayed, and I'll do it in the car on my way to work. Or if I'm walking to the train, whatever the means of transportation is to work, is where that's a physical reminder for me. So if I haven't asked myself that question by the time I get in the car is because I've created a habit of doing it, it's my physical reminder to ask myself that question. But the reality is, our mornings aren't, I don't wake up and have all makeup on and looking good. Yeah. I wake up like everyone else. Breath is bad. I'm probably dehydrated. So I need to, I prepare the night before, but we all, get up in the morning and we look like ourselves. And I go to the bathroom, and that's the first thing I do. And I sit there and I'm like, ooh, that's also, again, a reminder of asking myself that question. So yes, it's a great place, right?
It is a great place for deep thoughts. Actually, in fact, Radical Candor was born on my parents' toilet. You heard it here when I was like 6 years old.
This is a different origin story. I don't think we've heard this one yet.
Yeah, no, my grandmother had yelled at me because I had lied to someone, and I was crying. And then she said, I'm telling you this. I'm telling you about the truth because it matters to you and it's important, and because I love you. And if you can listen to people's criticism of you, you'll be a better person. You'll have a happier life. And I went away. I retreated to my parents' bathroom and sat down on the toilet for a while. And that was where I was like, Granny is right about that. So it's a good spot. It's good. I love it.
You didn't know you were going to be talking about this when you invited me on this podcast. Look at that.
No, I didn't. This was unplanned.
Allie, can you just, for our listeners again, just speak that question so that people can really anchor that for themselves as they start their day?
Absolutely. It's what or how do I want to feel today? And it could be anything from, I'll give you examples. Sometimes that's actually helpful, is I want to be quiet today. So when you have a work meeting, you're not going to be the loudest voice on the call, and you're going to feel good about that. You can say that I want to bring joy today. So when you get into the office, that's what you're emoting. That's what you're bringing. If somebody shows up with a bad attitude, you're like, ooh, that's not my bag. I'm bringing joy, and I think that that's what it is. Some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, we're getting it done today. Like, what do I want to feel today? I want to feel accomplished, and any roadblocks, I'm moving them. And you know why truly this two-part question became so profound for me is, Amy, you talked about feeling nourished, is that what I would do is I'd get up, I try to be a good citizen of like my work environment, go to work, perform, get in meetings, and I, say something or react to something in the moment. I feel like it was fair. I also feel like maybe was I being mean? Was I being kind? I couldn't tell how it was coming off, like how I was being portrayed. And I get home and I replay my entire day over and over and I'm like, did I make her upset? Oh my gosh, did she take that the wrong way? And I have no clue. So I'm over here wasting, like, this is now taking up brain space. I'm allowing these thoughts to take a vacancy for me, right, in my mind. And I just started to feel bad because I'm like, I couldn't tell my metric for success. Was that a good day? Was that a bad day? Am I proud of myself? Am I mad at how do I feel about me? Which is important. And so what I realized is that the change for it is for me to set what I want to feel and how I want to feel before it happens. So at the end of the day, if I was direct in a meeting, I say mission accomplished. I said I was coming in hot. I did. Every meeting I came in, the class was hard. When I saw you, I was bold. Like, I met that. Today, on this Tuesday, I came in hot. And when I look back, every reaction, every action was coming in hot. Job well done, Allie love. Job well done.
I love that.
And Allie, as you're saying this, I am also, what's coming up for me is how we can actually support each other with those intentions. So I'm really curious, what was your feeling you wanted to cultivate for today and how we can support you?
Oh, when I got up this morning, I said, I said it in my class recently. This is very recent, but it's something that comes into my mind is I want to stay present. I want to be focused and I want to have fun. So when I woke up this morning, I said today, be present. The reason for that is, sometimes when you try something new or that's scary, it goes by in a blur. You don't remember it. So I want to remember everything about being on the guest hosting on the Today Show for the second time, right? I want to remember. Focus. When the teleprompter, it's your turn, you lock in to whatever is in front of you, lock in, and don't forget to enjoy it, like have fun. And so I talked about it with my husband. We went over everything. How do you feel? And I was like, okay, I'm going to be present, stay focused, and have fun. Those are the three things that I've, like I said, I've been working on or thinking about often. That's what's going to lead me. And anytime I got nervous, I came back to those two things. Are you focused? Are you present? Are you having fun? Great.
I love it. And so this morning, was this your second guest?
Yes. So I've been a contributor now, which is also what am I? Who says what? Me, a contributor on the Today Show? What? But I've been a part of like NBC and like a contributor on the Today Show since I think I announced in May. So May, April, July. So it's been just about 5 months, I guess that is 4 or 5 months. And after and that means I come on once a week here or there, and I do my segments. And so it can be a take piece, it can be around health, wellness, and fitness, or it can just be things around building confidence, which is what the segment when I talked about radical candor. And I would say probably 6 weeks, maybe a little more into doing a few segments, they asked me to actually be a guest host on the show. And I was like,
Wow.
ooh, they made a mistake.
Amazing.
I was like, oh, they made a mistake. Maybe they thought I was someone else. Granted, like Libby,
it's the other Allie Love.
Yes, she knows me, and so I came on the first time, and Al Roker and Craig Melvin were so welcoming because I got to co-host with them. It was a Friday, and so it was more fun and free. And then they're like, great. So everyone said great feedback, and then I didn't hear anything for a while. So I came on for my 5-minute segments, and then I was like, well, if they don't ask me back, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then I got an email. It was like, we need you again to guest host. And I was like, what? Yes. So today was with Al Roker again and Chanel Jones, which was great.
So cool. Did you have fun?
Oh my gosh, I had a blast. I got to dance. I got to eat some beans and rice. I got to talk about Taylor Swift, which is always a pleasure. I got to talk about Usher, like all the good things.
Maybe we need to add some things to our podcast to make it, we need some dancing.
We do. I know you love all of your rides, but what are some of your favorite rides, Allie?
Well, Jason said it in the very beginning. The feel-good rides are, I would say, it is hard to choose. You ask parents which one's your favorite kid. They have a favorite kid. Everyone knows every parent has a favorite kid.
I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah, you do. But
is it time to go back and sit on that toilet, Kim, and think about what you've said?
But the nice thing to say is, you love your kids equally. And that's the thing. I do enjoy doing all my rides. Every ride type, I have a hand in my schedule of, speaking up on what I like to teach, and then Peloton saying what I need to teach in terms of servicing our global members. But Feel Good Ride was one of those things that I was in the car with my husband, and I just started at Peloton, and I was doing very poorly. And if you're wondering, like, what's poorly, let me give you an example. So in the beginning days of when I started, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was somewhere in the low 100,000s that we had in terms of membership. We weren't super global yet. We hadn't opened our UK studio. So we were very much in the US. So we were like US centric. And so most of my colleagues, when they would do a ride and it would go on demand, over time, it would probably yield, let's say 7 days later, it yields somewhere around 20,000 rides. That was huge. 20,000, 30,000 people took that ride. So Allie Love would do a ride at this time of like my beginning days, the first 6 months of Peloton. And the ride would go on demand. And 7 days later, there will be 438 people that did that ride. Now, if you know math, the way I know math, I know that 30 and 20,000 is greater than 438, right? I know that one number is bigger than the other. And then if you know math really well, you can see that the disparity between those numbers are even greater. And so it was one of those things where I would go home and I felt really bad about myself. And then I would try to look on the bright side, and I'd say at least about 500 people like me. That's a lot.
That was my initial response. Was that 500 people is a lot of people. 438 people. That's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot of people. And so as I started to, again, coming in, never being a fitness instructor, this being brand new, I was still hosting for the Nets and an Adidas ambassador. So I knew the camera. I wasn't scared to speak, or, I enjoyed cycling. I enjoyed the class. I just wasn't connecting all the pieces of the puzzle. And so I think we were in like a taxi or Uber or something. And I was with my husband, and he's like, well, what do you think most people, we're talking about how I'm feeling. So what do you think most people want to feel when they get on a Peloton ride with anyone, not just with you? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they want to feel. He's like, well, what do you want to feel when you take a ride? What do you want to feel? So I just want to feel good. Like, that's it. Like, I'm very simple in my mind. I want to get on, I want to clip in, and I want to work out. And at the end, I just want to feel good. Like, that's good. And he's like, I can tell you right now, that's what most people, if not all people, want to feel. And I looked at him and I said, do you mean a feel good ride? And he's like, yeah. And he will take credit that he created this ride, but which he did. But don't tell him that. Don't tell Andrew that. So I put together what is a feel good ride, because you have to distinguish it from everything that we're offering. Like, what makes this title different? What makes this ride structure different? And so I did that work. I tested it out in a few of my business as usual classes. And then I submitted it to my team at Peloton, and they approved it. And we started doing Feel Good Ride. And it's uplifting music. You know that at least the minimum of 5 minutes, there will be relentless hard work, because in order to feel good, you got to go through some things, and we'll go through them together. Outside of that, you decide what you want to do on the ride that makes you feel good. I will give you direction. You make those decisions that work for you that day. The minimum of 5 minutes, or whatever that number is a non-negotiable, though. You have to partake. We all have to partake. And so I would say that ride became my favorite ride. And then a couple years later, I created Sundays with Love. I'd been testing it out for a while. And so I was able to create Sundays with Love in terms of taking adjectives or virtues and just amplifying those virtues through music, through stories and tales and cliches and things like that we've all heard for years, and putting them in context, and then wrapping that up into a workout. So you're having like a visceral reaction to the information.
That is so cool. It's really, you're helping people change their behavior.
One of the things I really appreciate about Peloton is that you can get different things out of it. And I kind of see like you and Matt Wilpers as like one of them is like focus on fitness and the numbers and progress. And the other one is like focus on yourself, your well-being, like where your head and heart alignment. And some days I want to go by the numbers. You know what I'm saying? I want to see where I'm at. And some days I just need to move my body and feel better about things. And I love that both of those things are offered to me. But I will say that I do more feel good rides than I do fast rides.
No, Matt. And funny thing is, Matt and I came in at the same. Matt Wilpers and I came in at the same time.
Yeah,
like same time, and he is the numbers person, and he loves that, and I love him for that. He's exceptional.
So you started a company, the Love Squad. I would love to get some Radical Candor from you. What is it about Radical Candor that helps you manage that company, helps you lead that company? And what ideas in the book don't really work so much for you? We want to know the highs and lows.
Well, I don't know about like doesn't work for me, but I think the biggest takeaway for me was how to deal, like understanding that whether you are an employee or employer, how everyone is unique and different. And that sometimes you can see an interaction of two people yelling at each other. Mm-hmm. And you think, wow, this is a poor work environment. And it actually works for them. Yeah. So it's not taking a linear approach to what a successful working environment is, or what a working environment should be or was before, and looking at it and as more of a with a, I guess, more versatile approach of understanding the individuals in the work environment make up the environment. Yes. And the way that you engage and interact with respective individuals will change from time to time. And that, I think, has been the biggest takeaway for me. So if you look at that same concept, and I think that was for me was the biggest concept. If you look at that, if I don't do that, that's actually what doesn't work for me, is when I'm like, oh, I'm going to manage, my team while we're small. We've been around for a long time. We're doing these events. If I manage them or micromanage them in a way that they don't understand, that doesn't make them feel safe or doesn't make them feel good, I think that will cause more harm, right, than help, and also more conflict between us. And so for me, even I take that concept, whether I'm managing my employees at Love Squad, or I'm in a room at Peloton and we're having a conversation with instructors or instructor team, or our chief content officer. It's like I'm recognizing that these individuals, the way I communicate, I want to be effective. I was talking to my mom about this. It's like I can look. It's this concept of when you walk across the street, there's a car coming, and it's a red light, and you have the little Walkman across the street that says walk. There's a car that you notice that is speeding. You have the right of way. What is your choice? Do you stay on the sidewalk or do you walk? And the reason I was telling my mom I asked this is because when you walk out there, you can walk out in the middle of the street and get hit and still be right. Yes. So it's not about being right. It's about being effective. Yes. And so I think sometimes when we say, well, I'm going to stay on the sidewalk, you get nervous because you don't want to be wrong. You're like, well, I have the right of way. Why do I have to stand on the side and this person's speeding? And it's like, I get what you're saying. I understand that you have the right, or you are right, but do you want to be effective? And communication is the way that you can be most effective and eventually most productive as a team. And so that's what I garnered from that. This book actually came before I was at Peloton.
Wow.
Yeah. So back in the day, I was hosting for the Nets. And I was also, I'll tell you what, a Victoria's Secret model. So they don't have in-house models where we would do fit modeling. So everything that Victoria's Secret put out in the stores was made off my measurement and made off my body. That's the simplest way to put it. And I worked there. I was there for probably 6 years, I think, there. I would go in twice a week for 2 hours, and, you try on garments, you give feedback, you wear a test and all this stuff. And I remember one of the old managers there at the time, Heather, she's really cool. She lives in Brooklyn. She's like the cool mom, right? She would come in, and we were talking, and I was dealing with some frustrations within my career. I was just like, at the time I had an agent, and I was trying to communicate, again, I'm young. I don't know. I just want you to help me. I want you to get me to the next level. I want to just be better than what I am now. And I couldn't communicate that effectively because the way I was going about it just obviously was ineffective because I was frustrated. And so we were in a meeting, and we all are good friends till this day. So we were checking in, and I'm like, hey, I'm dealing with this. She was like, you know what? I have a book for you. And she went to her desk, she brought in Radical Candor. She's like, read this book. It's amazing. And I was like, don't worry, I'll go get my own copy. I'll get it. She was like, no, you can have it. That's what you do with books. You pass them along. Yes. And she gave me your book. And it was in that I started to develop and reframe my mindset of how I not only like carried myself, but how I showed up when it came to my business. Like I am my brand, even, when I'm 22 years old, I am my brand. And so I needed to communicate in a way that the people on my team at that time, it was effective for both of us.
So good. I love it. I need to meet Heather and tell her thank you.
Yeah,
I will.
That's a great origin story. Allie, as you were talking about why you find radical candor so helpful and effective communication, and what I heard actually was almost impact versus intention. Like if my intention is to have a kind and clear conversation with you, but it's not landing that way, how do I need to adjust? One of the things that came up as you were talking about Peloton and the individuality, and as Jason was saying, feel good or measurements, there's so much about knowing what's going to work well in a one-on-one relationship with the people that you work with. And so I'm just so curious, you have a dance background, and how much do you think of leadership as almost like curating and choreography of knowing, well, Amy and Allie might work a certain way, but then when it's Amy, Allie, and Brandy, it might have a different dynamic. And then we add Kim in. And so I'm just so curious, like, how do you leverage one-on-one relationships and then create like a team that's really dancing together?
I love that idea, dancing together. Well, I think the number one thing that comes to mind is in one-on-one relationships is to stay curious of what is working for that person in the season that they're in, because it does change. So if I think of where I was and what was my driving force 4 years ago, 5 years ago at Peloton, it's much different now. Because my goals have changed, I've grown in different areas. My life has changed and evolved. And so I think it's one, making sure you have constant and clear communication. Two, I think it's staying curious around where the person is and what they desire. And helping, if they don't know, helping them to arrive at that point. And then I think it's one of those things where once you've had these conversations, you're able to bring people together. And to your point, I love that you think of it as dancing. Sometimes I think of it as like, is it a maestro that like is an orchestra? It's like I can frame up conversations because I kind of know you, especially in the workspace, a little well, and what you think about what we're doing, that I can tee it up. Like, Kim, I know you actually like donuts. So we're thinking about bringing donuts in. And Amy, you maybe had some reservations when we discussed it. And I feel like you made up some good points, but Jason, while he doesn't care if we have donuts or not, I know when it comes to conversation, he's good at tying it all together. I just spoke life into all of you. I just teed up a conversation. I made it comfortable. I can tell that, I know you by saying certain words or repeating things you may have said to me.
You know me so well, Allie.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. And so that's how I like think about, even in Peloton meetings with my fellow instructors, is tying in. You said I took your class. People love when you quote them. I don't care if you're an instructor or not. When I can quote your book, or when people come up to me and say, I bossed up today, I'm like, I want to know you. I feel good. I don't care how successful or famous or unknown you are. When people come up to you and can quote you, that you've said this, it makes you feel like, all this hard work isn't in vain. And it's inviting. And that actually it opens the door to allow people to invest in what you're saying and eventually invest in you. And so that's what I tend to do, is I take some of those words, repeat their words back to them, tell them how their words connect to what we're trying to achieve, and then let them go on and talk.
Can we talk about the word boss for a second? Because it was so hard. I love the way that you use the word boss. And it was really hard to write a book about being a boss when all the words for being a manager doesn't sound great. Leader has a different problem. Some people love boss. Other people hate the word. So talk to me about what do you think when you hear the word boss?
Yeah. So again, on my journey of trying to grow up and have a really good career that I can enjoy, when I started at Peloton, I was having these conversations of nobody's taking my classes. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. And I sat down with a woman who used to work at our company, and it was early in the morning. She said, I can meet you at 7 a.m. And I was like, great. I've been up for 5 hours. Let's go. I'm like, it's all good. And so we sat down at the table, and she said, I said, I just don't feel confident being an instructor. I just don't think that they trust me. And I wouldn't trust me. Like, I just don't, So she's like, well, what do you want to feel like? And I was like, well, I just want to feel like I know the bike. Like, I want to feel like I know the bike inside and out. And she was like, well, say more. And I said, well, I want to feel like when I clip in, I'm the boss, right? I'm the boss of the bike. I'm the boss of the class. Trust me, I got you. And so I started to get curious on why did I want to be a boss? Like, what was that about? And I was like, well, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to be bosses are scary. Nobody likes bosses, at least not for a long time. They're like they're management, right? They're always trying to get me. They're not protecting me. And I was like, well, I don't want to be that. So then I started to, again, in one of my first Love Squad events, I started to talk through this. I was like, oh, wait, I have an ability to redefine and restructure words. Like, I get to do that. Everybody gets to do that. Like, if you think about popular words today, you're like, when people say that slaps, I've never heard of that. I don't know what it means, but somebody coined it and now it's cool. And now I say it, right? So I'm like, oh, I could do that. And so I started to think a little bit more of what does it mean to be a boss? Being a boss is someone who sets the standard. That's what I want to do, right? Why follow rules when we can solve real problems with real people? Include those real people. And so I was like, I want to set the standard. I want, instead of an instructor, being an instructor that I am, I want to be an instructor that everyone wants to be like. And to me, that was important. That's what a boss does. They set the standard. And then they establish the tone. When I get on stage and I clip in, I actually influence how everyone feels. And I recognize that any room, not just at Peloton, but any room or Zoom or, any place that you enter, you have the power to influence the people around you and how they feel. If I came on this call and I was like, yep, everything's good. Okay. It'll make you feel a way. It'll cause you either frustration. It'll cause you confusion. It'll cause you discomfort in a way, right? If I come on and my energy is high and I'm smiling, you could be having the worst day. Maybe it doesn't move your needle, 30%, but 10%, it can make you 10% happier in the moment. That is a big deal. And so being a boss, like I said, it's setting the standard, but establishing the tone, knowing that when you walk in any room, you can affect people, and hopefully it's a choice to affect them positively. That's how powerful you are.
I love that.
And Allie, what was the word that the other word was? Was it slap?
Slap.
Oh,
Slap.
That's slapping.
Slaps.
That slaps. You haven't
What does it
heard
mean?
that, Amy?
What
That
does it mean?
slaps? No.
I assume it's good.
Yes, I think all words just mean good. Like the definition of like any word is good. That's the definition. If you look in like the slang dictionary, every word is good, good.
So just so that I don't misquote it, can you use it in a sentence? Bossing up slaps.
Being a boss slaps.
Being a boss slaps.
Slaps, yes. You're like, oh, that sandwich, that slaps. Like that, that song, when you're like, oh my gosh, that new, whatever song that's trendy right now, that slaps. It means like when people say like it hits hard or like, that's, it's cool. It's great. It's good. It's awesome.
So good. I love it.
That slaps. Can I say that?
You could say, like I said, you can redefine any word. Like language, we used to think like language it had to be a certain way. And my friend, he says this all the time, is like, actually, language isn't necessarily getting every period and punctuation, your grammar being great. Is if the person you're communicating with understands what you're saying, you're doing it right.
That's language.
You're doing it right.
I love it.
Yeah, and we do that a lot on the podcast where we talk about different words, the meaning, and even in our workshops, like what does feedback mean to you? What does guidance mean to you? And realizing that, and even radical candor, what does care personally and challenge directly look like for you? So I'm curious, Allie, when you think about these ideas of radical candor, of caring personally and challenge directly, and it sounds like your husband has been a wonderful thought partner of like those kinds of reflections. And I'm curious, one of the things we like to do is hear stories when somebody cared and challenged us. And is there a moment in your life where you feel like you really received radical candor from someone?
Ooh.
Maybe someone said something that stung a little bit in the moment, but was useful for the next 10 years.
Since we're talking about my husband, Andrew, which he doesn't love when he's like
Private.
in the back. Yeah, he's such a private person. He's lovely. I would say that is actually a part of our relationship in the best way. And the reason for that, and this is, his words, not mine, is that that's the only way to build trust. Is that you will know when I say something, whether it's a compliment, whether it's feedback, that it's coming from a place that you can trust because I haven't lied to you, right? Like, so for example, from the simplest things, it was a vacation, maybe now 2 years ago, we went on vacation in Mexico and I was getting dressed. We were having a dinner on the beach. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're so fancy. We're getting dressed for the dinner on the beach. And I'm like, well, we just flew in. I'm going to be cozy. Like, it's just us. Not a big deal. So I get dressed in this dress that I brought. It's orange is my favorite color. So it's an orange dress. It's very frumpy, like oversized. The back is out. It's like an A-line skirt all the way to the floor. Very like a terry cloth material. So it's kind of heavy. I'm like, great. This is comfortable. I feel good. We're just going to sit on the beach and it's just us. So I come out and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. How do I look? And he was like, and he's never, again, it's different to your point, like being direct and being mean are two different things.
Yes.
So he never says anything that will hurt my feelings. He goes to me, I don't think that dress looks like how you think it looks. I said, what do you mean? He's like, I don't think it looks like how you think it looks. I think you think that dress looks good. And I was like, I do. He's like, so I don't think it looks like the way you think it looks, and I don't know, knowing your style, if that's what you're going for. And so I was like, okay, I thought we were being cozy. And so I changed into a little black dress. That was the night that we got engaged.
Wow.
Yes. But if we had not, like, let's say we had developed a culture within our relationship where I felt like he was just being mean, or he was just like trying to take a jab at me, or I didn't trust the words that were coming out of his mouth. And there are times where you're just like, I don't care. I like this 100%. But he knows that I like to look good. Like that is a part of really a part of how I grew up. My grandma would say, when you step outside, you look presentable. That's how we grew up. Right. And so he knows that it's important to me. So when he said that, and I, lo and behold, there are photos being taken of us secretly that I don't know because I'm getting engaged. And I looked at him once we were, we did the whole thing and there's fireworks and it's on the beach and he asked me to marry him. I was crying and it was beautiful and it was perfect. We were walking back to the room and I was like, thank you for not letting me wear that orange dress. I would have been really upset. And he was like, I know you so well. You would have been so upset. I would have had to redo all this. And so I think that to your question, I've received a lot of radical candor within my relationship, and it actually has done me a great service because I trust what my husband says is in my benefit. It's for my growth. It's never to break me down or bring me down or make me feel bad about myself ever. It's always things that he knows that I want or want to do, and it's aligned with building me up. And so for me, that's like I said, it's second nature. I will say too, funny enough, I'm always assuming that it's delivered from a place of being like radical in their candor, is our members will let us know. Our members will let us know what they don't like. They will let us know what they do like, but I assume it's always coming from a good place, that they'll let me know gently that they didn't like my class, or that they didn't like the fact that I talked over a song, or that I didn't play this certain song. And again, always, or that I got a fun fact wrong, which I'll get those because I don't always get the facts right. And I'll say, I think, but don't quote me. And they'll say, well, here it is. They'll always correct me. And it'll be from a ride that I taught 4 years ago. And I'm like, 4 years later, sir, can you imagine how many people have DM'd me? You don't think I know that was wrong? Or I can't change it. I did it. It's out there in the ether. It's done. You are like the millionth person that told me that when I did the Whitney Houston ride, that Dolly Parton wrote that song. Okay, I said, I think it was someone else. I don't even remember who I thought wrote I Will Always Love You, but it was Dolly Parton, okay?
Now you know.
We have set the record straight. And to be clear, we are filled with not only radically candid criticism, but so much radically candid praise, Allie, for all of the joy, inspiration, and teaching and love that you bring into the world.
You just told my new favorite radical candor story. I love that.
Yeah.
Such a good story.
And this is someone who loves orange, and we love orange. But I think the reason why it's so beautiful is because he knew you so well to know what would be meaningful and important to you. And that was really caring.
He's okay. Let's not big him up too much.
Big him up. So what, Allie, I want to make sure Kim has brought up a few times in our conversation around behavior change and practice. And so much of what we try to encourage with folks practicing radical candor, sometimes the courage to have those conversations. And you are doing so much each day, which takes courage, practice. What tips do you have for folks who might struggle with building radical candor as a habit? Since you know a lot about habit building, what tips do you have?
Well, I think that habit building is hard for anyone. Let's be clear about that. So if you're feeling if you're in a space and you feel like, wow, how are these people doing this? And I just can't, like, or I'm not. Trust me that we've all been in that space and or is in that space when it comes to something for us. And so building a habit is hard. One of the ways that I always encourage myself truly and folks around me is to put it in front of you, right? And again, I feel like I talk about this all the time. Post-it notes. I have a bunch of post-it. Literally, I am like a post-it notes queen. Write it down, stick it in front of you, stick it on your desk, stick it on your baby crib. You know, when you go pick up your baby out of the crib, you see this post-it note when it's in your bathroom, in your mirror. If you have a locker, if you're driving a car and sometimes you're in a sunny place and you have what is that? Whatever that thing that covers the sun is called, because I don't drive. Thank you. You have a visor. You put a post-it note of things that you want to build a habit around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that constant reminder, right? We talk about social media and I put myself on an hour time limit. Sometimes I'm good at the hour and sometimes I'm bad. But the point of that is because what I recognize is that I'm feeding myself everything. It's called a feed, your Instagram feed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's right in the words. You're feeding yourself all these things. How can you watch a scary movie and be shocked that you had scary dreams? No, you were going to. You just fed your subconscious a scary movie. If you love that kind of thing, oh my God, keep going. But don't be shocked when the next day you're like, I was so terrified. I don't know. I was so uncomfortable sleeping. It's like, that's what you fed yourself. Whatever you feed yourself, that's exactly what's going to ruminate in your mind and what most likely you will regurgitate. It'll show up in your word choice. It will be your habit. And so for me, the easiest way to build a habit, even when it's hard, is to put it right in front of your face. If you want to run indoors, I'm not saying buy a Peloton tread, but buy a Peloton tread. My tread is here in my extra bedroom and I leave the door open because anytime I walk by, I'm like, oh, it's looking at me. You know, it's a reminder to get on. Or a reminder that I love it. And so I do that often. I put things in front of me to remind me. I have water bottles around my house. I talk about this often. There's a water bottle in every room because there you go. It's a tangible reminder to hydrate. Being dehydrated actually makes you cranky. And me cranky is not good to anyone in the world. So again, to be my best self, to build that habit, I put it in front of me. And that's exactly what I do. For working out, I say put on Peloton app and just put it on. You don't have to get dressed. Just put it on while you're washing dishes because it becomes less scary. You become familiar with it. And so for me, those are things. It's whatever you're feeding yourselves. Usually that's the first step, allowing yourself to get familiar with it. And then for you to engage and eventually build that habit. And so I do that all the time.
I love that. So helpful. And I also love your 5 minutes. You just have to do it for 5 minutes because once you're 5 minutes in, it's much easier to keep going. Really
oh my
smart.
gosh. Yes. And life's too short. If you don't enjoy the workout, definitely get out of it. Like no one's holding you to it. But once you get in and you get through the warm up or you get halfway through the warm up, you're like, this isn't this bad. Or most times you're like, I really like this song. And you let the music carry you or the words of the instructor carry you. So 5 minutes go a long way for sure.
Yeah. And I love the idea of you really do create kind of multi-sensory experiences. So you've got the music, you've got the movement, even with Love Squad, which I want to spend a few moments on talking about words. And so I love how it's just like a multidisciplinary, multisensory experience that you're creating, that we don't have to just rely on sort of sheer willpower. There are other resources that we can access and other people, community. So tell me about the origin of Love Squad and where it is now.
Yes, I love this question. I have 3 things to say. So Love Squad's origin story started, I always say, out of frustration and lack of resources. I moved to New York in college. I knew I wanted to be a dancer. I knew that dancing didn't make money, so I had to figure out how to make money. And I also couldn't go to these events where, young folks would be getting together and making friends and learning about career building skills. And out of that frustration and lack of entry, I decided to create a space myself. I created a website and I talked about things that I knew, like how to get out of bed without pressing snooze in college, right? That's a big deal. How to accept no. As a dancer, I was gigging, meaning I was going to audition and I would get the no, at some moments, and it would hurt my feelings. Like, how do you deal with those no's? And eventually Adidas found the website and they reached out and said, you're writing about women empowerment. I didn't even know that I was writing about women empowerment. I thought whoever's like me, I want to talk to them. Or whoever's dealing with things that I've dealt with or that I'm dealing with, I want to talk to them. And so they were like, can you create some women empowerment content for us? And so I did, which was cool. And I decided maybe this is a thing. I created an event. I was like, well, instead of us just connecting on social media and through the website, what if we all met up? And at this time I had probably about 3,000 followers on Instagram, which is a lot of people, but not all of them in New York. And so I went out and I found a space for free and I got, gift bags for free. And I was just hustling to make it. I became an event planner without any experience in a new city, in a hard city. And so I invited everyone out. I said, I'm going to put this event. It'll be free so that you don't need resources to come here. You have that entry. It's free. Tell a friend, bring someone. We have 50 spots because it was a small space. And I opened it up and within like 15 seconds, we had 75 people signed. Like it was like 50 people signed up with a 75 person wait list. And I was like, okay, great. This is good.
Yeah.
I had the event and I had the space to 8:30 and I tell this story often. It was 8:30 on the dot. And I was like, you all have to get out because I don't have any money because they're going to charge me and I don't have any money. And I was like, I love that you're networking and all these things. And the event consisted of me sitting down with a girlfriend who had built her brand. And I just moderated the conversation and she shared how she did it. And I was like, now talks amongst yourself, network, get to meet someone. Then I was like, okay, now that you're networking way too long. I need you to leave, call each other on the phone. And I end up inviting everyone who signed up and the wait list because I felt bad turning them away. So it was a fire code and I didn't want anyone to come. I didn't want them to come. So after that event, I said, you know what, this was great. Let's do this again. And so Love Squad was birthed out of the curiosity for conversation. Conversation is the catalyst for change, right? We know that no big decision is created in our lives without a conversation internally and then externally with a loved one, with a friend, with a mentor, sometimes with a stranger. And so I was like, wow, this is something, it's something profound and I want to do it. It doesn't have to be big. It can continue to be small. So I kept doing, I've continued to do events around New York City. We've done some in Chicago, like in London, very small events, and it has been very beneficial. We have all ages. So it's not just like, oh, folks in college. It's folks in college looking to get into the career space. It's folks that are, parents that just actually are making maybe toying with the idea of getting back into the workspace for them to meet each other, to share their experiences. And it's been very, very successful. The second thing that I want to say, which is, what you kind of touched on. And I was kind of talking to my mom yesterday about this. The sensory thing is the effectiveness of words. Sometimes someone will say something in a way that will hit you. It'll hit you and you'll cry. It'll hit you and you'll feel triggered. And I recognize that we have that power and sometimes that nuance, that personal nuance isn't explored. And so I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, when you say these words, actually they trigger me. We were having a great conversation, but I was like, when you say that, because we role play a lot. So she needs to have a conversation with someone else. So we were having it, she was having it with me as if I was the stranger. And I was like, but when you say that to me, it triggers me and I would react this way. I'm not sure they will, but just so you know, maybe there's a different word choice or a different tone. And I think that we forget that our words can be very impactful in a good way and sometimes in a not so good way. And I oftentimes bring this up when I talk. And the third point around in Love Squad is that the best marketer, like when we talk about brand and reputation and when I leave this call, how you feel about me, the best person, the best brand that has ever set foot on the earth is your grandma. Your grandma has done it well. She hits all of your senses. She usually smells good. She has that smell. You're like, Grandma, you smell so good. She makes food taste. It thinks you're in a comfortable space. So everything looks good. All of your senses are vibing right now in the best space, right? And not all people have great grandmas, but most grandmas are just great. That's just life, right? And so when I think of my grandma, I'm like, wow, she hits all of the senses. And that is what a great brand does, right? They tickle all of your senses in some ways. And I think that we have to keep in mind that that's exactly what we want to continue to do and that we talk about in Love Squad for sure.
Brilliant. I love that. What a happy way to wrap up. Allie, we love talking to you.
Thank you so much.
You are the embodiment of radical candor. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. This is so cool.
I guess now I want to ask one more question. If you could be beyond your wildest dreams coming back to us in 3 years, what would we be talking about?
Wow. I don't know. I hope some of the same things. I think for me, being at Peloton, being on the Today Show, like being with my husband, being with my friends, I do think history is a sign of success. Not always, but being someplace for a long time and being happy during that time while you're there is a metric for success that I always strive to have. So I do hope in 3 years that I'm actually saying that I'm doing a lot of the same stuff now. And if somehow I became a diplomat, that if we really are reaching high, I became a diplomat of a country.
Okay. I love
All
it.
right.
And I'm a part of
first.
international conversations and how to make the world better.
I think you would make the world a better place for sure.
Thank you.
This has been so fun. And one thing as we close, we've been doing favorite thing a lot lately, Allie, and I know there's probably not one favorite song on your playlist. But if you're looking to feel good on the day that we're recording this, is there a song, if you are wanting to boost your mood a little bit, what song would you put on that would make you want to get out of your chair?
Right now?
Right now, sure. Why not?
Right now.
Def
Right
Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Oh,
Pour some sugar on me in the name of love. Like that song right now. I'm just like, yeah. Like I feel so, it makes you feel good.
it does.
I love it.
I love it. Well, hopefully we can add that as we roll out. Thank you again for taking time. Congratulations on your guest hosting today. We had such a good time with you.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Be well.
So sweet.
Take care. The Radical Candor podcast is based on the book Radical Candor, Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity by Kim Scott. Episodes are written and produced by Brandy Neal with script editing by me, Amy Sandler. The show features Radical Candor co-founders Kim Scott and Jason Rosoff and is hosted by me, still Amy Sandler. Nick Carissimi is our audio engineer. The Radical Candor podcast theme music was composed by Cliff Goldmacher. Follow us on LinkedIn, Radical Candor the Company, and visit us at radicalcandor.com.